Let me know, Tomas.
Oh, yeah,
You need me to clap again? Are we good?
No, we've been recording. We're good.
Wait, that's water, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
water.
I thought you were saying that you
We didn't
only
have any
had.
bottled water.
That works. What is this from the
Toilet.
water fountain?
Yeah.
Wow,
We have
you
plenty
literally
of toilet
you
water.
figured it out. Toilet water,
Plenty of
nice.
toilet water,
Not
yeah.
even better. We'll just start off with
Not
that.
for a fellow Packer fan. I know he's not.
Oh, jeez. I mean, I don't know. They're not very good right now. All right, let's get started. Hey, everybody, Jared James here. Welcome to this episode of Today with Jared James. I'm joined today by a special guest, Mr. Scott Fahl from Privy. You want to say hi to everybody?
Hello, everybody.
Awesome. Is he he's close enough to the mic, right, Tom?
I can get a little closer.
Yeah,
A little
there you
closer.
go. I knew it. And that you asked me before, like that's
right
kind of
up
stuff
in
we
there.
just leave right in there.
Yeah.
It's right there.
There you
So I've really been looking forward to this. So obviously, within what I do, you see a lot of companies. You see, my job is really to help agents, help brokers, and part of that is also seeing opportunities. And so, I wanted you on here today for a couple reasons. One is just from the perspective of an entrepreneur. Just about everybody who listens to us is an entrepreneur, and so there's something that they can learn. Because what I love about you, similar to me, it's like we're in the grind every day as far as getting punched in the face. It was so funny. Years ago, one of my kids' friends asked me like what it's like to be an entrepreneur, and they were ready for me to like tell them like what color car you pick out every day and your selection of women and your like all this stuff. And I'm like, every day I get punched in the face 47 times, and 3 good things happen, and I hope those 3 good just outweigh the 47 punches.
Yeah.
And that is, I mean,
Yeah. Now they're going to college.
it's a hard knock
Getting
life.
a degree.
Yeah. That's a whole other story.
Yeah, that's
Don't
a
even
whole
get me.
other
Don't even
Yeah.
get me going on that. But anyway, so I thought it'd be really cool to have you on here to kind of talk about your entrepreneurial journey. You obviously have a really cool app called Privy, which I've told my people about. I've mentioned on the road. I think you guys were at our advance as well.
Mm-hmm.
But really, just from the entrepreneurial journey, there's so much that can be learned. And one day when they read about you selling this thing for $13. I want them to look back and just say like,
Jared
oh
James
shoot,
ruined it for him.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. Could have been 20. But no, it's I want them to be able to look back and go, oh shoot, I remember hearing from him like in the journey, which is we always hear from people after.
Yeah.
It's like, I used to do this. I used to whatever, and it's like no, there's a place for how we get here. So first off, you said Green Bay. Because I know you live in Denver now.
Yeah. I'm from Wisconsin originally, not Green Bay, but we were talking Packers.
So what was all that talk about vodka earlier? You'd be a beer drinker if you were from Green Bay.
Well, I mean, if you're from Wisconsin, you pretty much drink anything.
Yeah, that's pretty much true. You can say that, I can't. Yeah. When did you leave Green Bay?
1999, I moved to Denver. Yep. So I've
Doesn't
been
that
out there.
sound like it was just yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, sort of. The 90s feel like it's a long time ago now.
I don't. When I hear the 90s, man, I'm like, oh, the other day. And then I'm like,
You still
think about when
jam
you're in
into-
the 90s listening to current music.
That's what I was just going to ask you.
It's like the equivalent of listening to 60s when you were then. When somebody now listens to, like my kids listen to 90s, I'm like, that's me. And we would call it oldies.
Right.
But
They just said that, I read something, internet, saying that all those 80s, 90s bands, when the music was great, they're saying, is now considered oldies as of this year.
that's ridiculous. I do think, and I
Well,
know
maybe
this
you're
is-
getting a little older.
I know,
Jared.
well, I know I
mean,
am. I'm aware of that, and that's all right. But I honestly believe this, though. I think the 90s is the last great decade. And I know people say that as they start to age, but the truth is everything since then has been a copycat. We still wear the shoes from the 90s.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
you still wear they're just redoing all the songs from the 90s.
Right.
Like that, like
But there's just so much music now. When anybody who has a guitar can record a track and put it on Spotify, trying to figure out what's good and what's not good can take your entire lifetime.
Yeah.
Like filtering that down.
Yeah.
Back in the day, people told us, they're like, hey, we'll filter it all for you, and here's the best bands. And they were right in a lot of ways.
in
right?
many ways. I
Yeah.
mean, that's.
I was a 90s kid, so for
Yeah,
me,
same.
it just, is it that we like it better because we lived through it?
That's what I mean. But
Yeah.
like I said, we are still wearing the shoes from the 90s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
not the exact same
But
ones.
the Jordans are still
Right.
it's the, I was telling someone the other day, like if you saw my likes and interests when it comes to my sports teams, you would think I'm a complete front runner. And it's because, I like the Broncos because I lived in Colorado, but like college basketball, I'm a Duke guy.
Yeah.
And people are like, especially living in Connecticut now, they're like, Duke, what are you talking about? Like, they think I'm a front runner. But what they don't realize is that when I was a kid, there wasn't 400 channels.
Right.
And 7 different streaming apps. And like, whoever, I'm a Pittsburgh Penguins fan for hockey.
Yeah.
Because Mario Lemieux was on TV. Duke was on TV. Yeah. Like, you know, when you start to look at these teams that I like, it's because I moved around. I lived in Colorado as well, but like I moved around, and you didn't have all these. You didn't have every game. You had the main people. I was a Bulls fan. Like that's who was on.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like I had any choice.
Right.
It was just kind of like when you live in different areas, no matter where I went, they were on. You know, and so it's just a different. I don't know if it's better or worse, but it's different.
I think it's better in ways that, you know, ADD is getting so bad that, you know, you're just switching channels like in commercials. You're just going to the next thing. I have YouTube TV. It's terrible for me.
I do YouTube TV. Like, that's
it's terrible. I'm just going from one to the next. I don't have time to wait for a commercial. Like, forget it. Which is a sign of the times, I guess. But
did you get rid of cable and just do YouTube TV?
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
I haven't had cable for 15 years. Like, I watched zero TV.
Don't you think they're just taking advantage of older people who don't understand there's options?
Who don't have lives?
I'm being 100% true. Like, I talked to like my boy's mom, and she's just like, no, I got to keep for local channels. And I'm like, no, they have local channels
right.
You know, I talked to my grandpa, and they don't even know that it's an option.
Yeah.
And then I look at what they're paying. I'm like, holy crap, are you serious?
Yeah.
And it's not available ever. It's not, you know, whatever. It's like,
and
guys,
it's terrible.
What's
like
the point of
TV,
cable?
Local TV is like hard to watch sometimes.
And really, all I really watch, I mean, let's face it. Like, I mean, I got the live sports.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but
that's
like,
what happened to YouTube TV. I got the NFL because they switched over there,
NFL
and now I'm like, I'm partway through a dozen different series.
Yeah.
Because I just start them and then I'm bored with them. So
what are you in right now?
An old one. Have you ever heard of Peaky Blinders?
Come on.
What?
That's
you like
a great
it?
freaking show.
It's
Have I ever heard of Peaky? You know, that's like one of the most like top-rated shows of all time.
I did not know that.
Peaky Blinders. What season are you in?
Just started 3.
Oh, it gets so.
So
good.
I got like 2 more years worth of seasons.
Tom, have you seen that?
No, but Ryan used to talk about it all the time.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
My mic is on. Now
it's so good.
It's a little
ends.
gangster.
I think they're coming back with another
period.
season. They're coming out with a movie.
Really?
Yeah, I saw a thing they're coming out with a movie.
Do I have to get through all 8 seasons before I watch the movie?
Probably.
I think so.
Probably.
I think so.
That's how I get you.
I think that's how it goes.
exactly how I get you.
Yeah. What other ones? What others you watching?
Let's see. So I started.
I think you said started. I can't stick with.
Yeah, I've never finished one. I don't think.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the only one I've ever really finished is Game of Thrones.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
That started slow, season 1.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, they're setting up characters, and then that just got like.
Then you're waiting for like the next episode to come out. I mean, I haven't felt like that in a while. That's cool.
Like that show is so good that like guys were tired of the sex scenes. They're just like, you're taking away from quality time when we could be like watching plot right now.
Yeah.
Like, let's go. You know, like that show
was excellent.
That show
Yeah.
was so good. Like it. Yeah.
People talk about the ending. You know, last episode, like it was terrible. I don't know. I didn't think it was great, but I didn't think it was terrible.
Don't we always do that? I think
Yeah,
the only
because
show that
they're
I've ever
sad
heard
it's
people
over,
like
maybe.
the ending was The Office.
Oh, really?
People like when you talk to people about the shows that they like and whatever, and the ones that whatever. The Office is one that people are like, that's the best ending. But think about it, every other show, people hate the ending.
Right.
Because what do you do? Like how do you end
it's
a
sad.
classic
It's like
show?
losing
Do
a
what David
friend.
Chase did with The Sopranos, and you just cut it.
Even that, people are like, that's terrible. That's absolutely terrible. You know what I mean? Like, there's no Seinfeld. Terrible.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, Yeah. So I'm with you though. I don't.
I'm gonna start a new one, a new old one. Cheers.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Like,
So-
you talking about Cheers?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'm gonna go back and rewatch it.
Wow.
I heard those guys talking, Woody Harrelson and Sam, the bartender.
Yeah. The guy. They have a podcast.
Yeah.
Which I forget his name right now. Ted.
Ted Danson?
Ted
Ted
Danson.
Danson.
Jeez, we are getting old. So I heard him talking. I was like, yeah,
Cheers was
I
before my
remember
time.
that.
That was a classic show, but before my time.
Well, it was classic in a way that maybe you should watch it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
If I go back and watch a show now, or not go back, but like a show right now I'd watch is Landman. The one with Billy Bob Thornton, Jolie's ex guy or whatever.
Yeah.
I hear that's amazing.
I heard that's amazing.
Like, I hear that, and then I see, like, I'm scrolling through TikTok before it potentially gets banned. And like it's now showing me scenes from it, and I'm like, this is good. Like, this is it's almost like Yellowstone, but the guy's in oil instead. They kind of learned from Yellowstone, oh, people like this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so they have a character like that. And everything I've seen from it, I'm like, this is great. Then the problem is I can't figure this out. I have what's called Paramount. I also have Prime, Amazon, whatever it is. But even though I have them, when I go there, it wants another trial from me in order to watch the show, and I'm just all confused. And I'm like, don't I already pay for this? I don't want to pay again.
Yep.
And it's so at this point, I've refused.
They want your commitment.
Yeah, I've
'Cause You're gonna
refused.
watch the first episode and you're gonna be like, you know
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Nah, it's too late.
I'll watch the whole thing. I'll wait till it's done, and then I'll get on that 7-day trial. But that, honestly, though, back to the original point,
Wow,
that's why I don't
Jared.
finish shows.
Do you need to borrow some money?
Yeah, exactly. It's you'll learn about me. I don't mind spending money. I don't like wasting money.
Yeah.
I feel like I already pay for
I
it.
don't know anybody that likes wasting it.
Some
Well,
people.
actually, if you go to Vegas.
Have you been to our country?
Yeah, I've been to Vegas.
I saw an interesting video last night. They're like, so if we're able to print money on demand, why are we paying taxes? I'm like, makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
why aren't we just, we're gonna put that on the side, but
Yeah.
just think about that one for a while. Why are we paying taxes when we could print money?
I don't know.
Yeah, that makes you go.
Yeah, I don't want to even say anything because I don't know enough information about it.
All we need is
Like,
one
somebody's
disaster,
out
and we'll
there-
print enough money for everything that everyone would have paid in taxes.
Somebody's watching this right now going, you guys do not know what you're talking about.
By the way, it doesn't matter what we say, people are going to do
Yeah.
that.
Oh, really?
I don't know if you've seen this thing called the internet.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you say red is red.
Yeah.
Someone,
No, it isn't.
someone gets involved.
Yeah.
yeah. It is. I've learned that.
I think people like doing that. I think they get off on it. Like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to argue.
I don't know if we
today.
call them people. They're really losers.
I mean, they're human beings.
Yeah,
Maybe. Could be
loser
a
human
bot
beings.
these
But
days,
yes,
who knows?
look, if you have enough time to go comment on someone's video you don't know negatively, and probably your profile is a cat.
Yeah.
We're different types of people. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like I don't know. We're different.
So you don't read any of that stuff?
You know what the funny thing is? Sometimes for fun I will.
That's fun for you?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, because I think it says more about them than me. Like I know, like I'll do it with my kids for fun.
Right.
Yeah, like one time
But
somebody.
you never had anything that like hit home a little bit? And you're like,
You know what? It's a good
you know
point.
what?
Sometimes you can find truth in stuff, no doubt about it. But some people are just haters. Like
yeah,
they don't
for sure.
understand nuance. They don't understand humor. They don't understand. Like one time I did a video where I was giving an example of something you do when you walk in a house, and I said like you do the Stevie Wonder, and I did like a Stevie Wonder thing, and people were just all up in arms. How dare you?
How
He's
dare you.
blind. Blah,
wow.
blah, like whatever. Like as if I'm anti-blind.
Yeah.
And like clearly it's a joke,
Yeah.
whatever. And so my kids and I were reading the comments, dying hysterically, laughing. And I'm like, just let me respond. And my kids are like, you can't respond.
yeah.
And I was on vacation, so then I had a couple drinks. And I was
you
like,
responded.
I renegotiated. I said, can I just respond to one? Just
Oh,
one.
man.
And so I wrote back this one gentleman, and I said, I can see what you mean. Unlike our friend Stevie Wonder.
Oh my
And
gosh.
look, as if like I don't want him to be. It's just
Right.
it was people need to understand humor again.
Yeah.
And the truth is, it's funny. I just said this at an event. I was just doing a leadership event here in Connecticut with the leadership for CT Realtors, and I was talking about how people listen to the loud minority, meaning. If I put up a video, let's look at this right now, okay? I'm literally going to do this on the spot right now. I put up a video this morning, okay? And just on Instagram, let's forget about all the platforms. We'll just look at this one right here, okay? So here we are. So on this particular video right here, right? This video's doing well, actually. 1,600 shares, hundreds and hundreds of comments, whatever it is, right? I promise you 95% of those comments are awesome. They're amazing. Yeah. They're like, come on, and they get because it was it was a humorous, like, whatever. I promise you 3 to 5% of them hope that I step into traffic. Think I'm a terrible person. Like, how dare you joke about that? How dare, whatever. And so my point was that, like, it's all there. Like, why do we focus on the 15 comments instead of the 1,500? Like, the 15 comments that are so contrary to everybody or negative about everything, it doesn't matter if it's you or someone else. Their life sucks. Boring people are bored. Miserable people are miserable. They find what they look for. They're the ones that walk into every single room, and for them, that room has just a bunch of landmines.
Targets.
that they've set for you, and you have to maneuver and you'll miss 9 of them, and then you'll step on the 10th, and they'll go, see, whatever. And it's because they're miserable people. It's not because of anything you did or anything that you whatever. It's just that boring people are bored. miserable people are miserable. And so you either focus on the 1,500 or you focus on the 15. But every once in a while, you do find something where you kind of go like, huh, maybe you should watch that. Maybe you should. But most of the time, you understand who you are. You understand where you're coming from. You understand your humor. You understand that I don't want Stevie Wonder to be blind.
Yeah, right.
But making a joke doesn't, like, that's what humor is. You know?
Yeah, I think there's a big difference between like constructive criticism and just criticism.
Right.
And when people are just criticizing to criticize, it's kind of obvious that they're doing that. And
Right.
you know, and I don't even spend any time trying to figure out who they are, what they're doing. Just like, you know, hopefully you figure something out because you're making life a lot harder than it needs to be.
That's it.
Right. And you can just be a lot happier, a lot more friends if you just weren't so passionate about the Jared James video.
About everything. Right? But if it's not me, it's something else, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think it's a mirror back on them.
Well,
you know, like people who are unhappy,
right.
Well,
I mean, there's also this idea that we're all human, right? So everybody has a trigger. Everybody has their things going on, things they're working on. And if you try to purposely find somebody's trigger to, piss them off because you get off on it, then you got some real issues. And, you're not going to, that's not going to fly with some people. Somebody's eventually going to call you out on that BS, right? But there's also just accidental stuff that happens too. Like I call it stickies, right? And it's a thing I've been conscious about for a while. So, when you walk through like a field and you get those little sandburrs on you, right? I look at that as like comments sometimes. So when you're talking to somebody, if you leave a sticky on them, they'll remember that forever. Like they won't remember the 99% of the times you said all the wonderful, great things.
Right.
They'll remember and feel that sticky forever.
Interesting.
And, I have some on me, right, that people put on me, and that's why I'm so conscious about it. And I know I've put them on other people.
Yeah, right.
And, trying to figure out how not to do that, right? Because that is not you have an opinion on something. That's you just, not having an awareness level that this person, what you just said affected them.
What
in a
their
negative
trigger
way.
is.
Yeah. And you're like, whoops, right? Like, I didn't mean to do that. And some of them you can pull off. Some of those stickies you can pull off. Some of them you can't. So, if your intention, I like to do things intentionally.
Yeah.
Like, if my intention wasn't to hurt you and you got hurt,
of course.
I used to be, like, tough. But now I'm like, well, wait a minute. If I had a little bit more awareness level while I was saying this, I could have seen that happening and I would have, shut it down. So
so interesting. So interesting. It's funny you say that. I was just talking to someone who wanted to be a speaker or something, and they were talking about an audience, and it didn't go well with the audience or something. It was because something they did. And look, there's a balance. Like there's some things that you got to get people's attention. There's some people, no matter what you do, they're going to get mad. They're going to whatever. Have a good day. Like whatever. Right. But you do, as a communicator, have an obligation to try to not block your communication.
Right.
Meaning do things intentionally that even if the message was good, they weren't able to receive it because of the messenger. That's a different thing. And finding that balance is kind of well.
Well, some of them.
Yeah,
most of them.
I feel like God nowadays. I don't know if anybody believes anything that they say right now. But.
Well, it's you can go down a path there that I'm not sure we should today.
We'll do that later off camera.
We'll do it later.
We'll do that off camera. Anyway, so it's funny you say that too with like the different people, different whatever. That also, I was thinking about even our earlier conversation. It's like, I guess that's why it's great that everybody has so many different options. It's like some people rub you right, some people don't. Some people, there's a lot of different options for you. Some shows you love, some shows you don't. We live in a world where, my God, you definitely have choice.
You know, it's interesting because I always find myself being like growing up and even today just being a curious person, right? So when you're trying to identify, who you are and what you're interested in, it changes all the time. And, you have that curious, like maybe there's something cool over here. You know, part of it is just, what's cool to you is just learning new things, right? So when you're doing that, it's tough to, have this sort of boundary where you don't fit into this boundary because I'm only accepting these people into this boundary, right? When you're curious and constantly out there like learning new things, you end up running into all kinds of people. Yeah, that's where your skills as a communicator need to apply. I don't know this person at all, right? And I don't know if I'm going to like them or not like them. Right. You can go into that two ways. Assume that everybody's got something you'd probably like, or assume people suck.
Which, by the way, they probably do.
They
have
probably
something
do.
that you
Right, but how much time is it going to take for you to get to that? And if that person's not a good communicator, you'll probably never find it because you won't get have a good enough conversation to even get there. Right? Yeah. So kind of the point of if you're curious and you're always going to be roaming around, it's not as easy to say, I'm only going to hang around nice people, right?
Right.
But like your inner tribal, that's where you really have the choice. But I think that that's really key to have supportive individuals around you, especially as an entrepreneur. Like when you start going up and down riding that roller coaster, if you're not an entrepreneur, people have no idea what you're going through, right?
Yeah.
And it's not that they don't care, they just don't understand. So when you talk about it, right? Which is a lonely sort of path for sure.
Oh God, that's the part that's not talked about a lot when it comes to entrepreneurs. It's just like there is a lonely because while people don't understand, you can't expect them to understand either. Yes. It's not their reality, right? They just want to hear about the home runs. They want to hear about the great things. They want to hear about whatever. And then the other stuff, it's true. It's part of why, I've got to, I told you at the end of this month, I've got kind of that guy's trip I go on, whatever. You got to find your packs where you can actually talk about things and do things and be open and people understand you. I call it it's like our X-Men group. It's like we're freaks.
Which one are you? You Wolverine?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know. I'd have to think about that.
I don't know if you can pick it.
That's a whole other discussion on a podcast. Which one would you be? But it is like that, where it's like you get around these people that they're able to operate in the world. When they walk around, everybody's like, oh, they look normal, everything's whatever. And little do they know, it's like, no, I'm a freak. I'm, whatever. And you get around these other people and you're like, oh, we understand each other. Yeah. Oh, we have these superpowers, or we feel things this way, or we have this, whatever. And so for entrepreneurs, that's why it's so important when everything in you is just going lonely, stay away, whatever, to actually find your pack and find that,
I got a question for you about that. So, they have all these groups CEO groups or entrepreneurial groups. One thing I find, and this is going to sound terrible. But
No. I think we probably agree here.
Okay. So when I go, and I saying it's lonely and, you don't get to talk about, your thing because it's over somebody's head or they just don't care, right? That's how I am in an entrepreneurial group. Yeah. When other people are telling me about their stories and what they're doing, I like the stories part, like the struggles and what they did to get through it. But when they start talking about their actual product, I lose interest almost immediately. And here I am saying, it's like poor us, we don't have, it gets lonely and it's like, well, you're doing the same thing. You really don't.
But you're so focused right now. You're in build mode. You're in build mode.
I don't know if I can get out of it.
You.
I'm sell the company, and what am I gonna do, right?
But that same, it's kind of like addicted personalities, though. They latch on to things, and so your focus is on that thing right now. It's not that you're actually focused on. That's your mentality. But once that has come to fruition, and let's just say you sell it or you do whatever it is, you're going to take that and latch it on to something else. That's why people with addictions they defeat alcoholism and then they start running marathons. Yep. And then when they're done doing marathons, they start getting because that wasn't actually the thing. Right. It was the actual personality trait, you know? And that's what you have.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
I think trusting that is the biggest thing that I've learned as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I used to do you ever catch yourself interrupting somebody, right?
You kidding me?
Are you
do you know how hard on this podcast I have to
Oh, really?
I can't watch the first 100 episodes.
And why do you think that is? Why do you think you?
Because I know how my head works.
I think you kind of move pretty fast, right?
My head moves very fast. Right. Yeah.
And so, do you find that it moves so fast that if you don't say what you're going to say right now, you're just if you don't get it out, you're not going to remember it.
No.
Or you're going to
yes
go right
and no.
past
No,
it?
My head works in a way where I'm living two-dimensional. This is going to get really whatever for everybody, but I have the reality we're all living in right now, and then I have this whole other side where it's like a separate monitor that's playing what's happening before it happens, and so I know what you're going to say. And so something kicks in and goes, why are we even taking that time? We only have so much time. Got it. Boo. And I just kind of go, and I'm trying so hard now to, like I said, I can't watch the first 100 episodes of this show because
you know what's going to happen?
Because I'm just like I had a friend on here, right? And he enjoyed it and everybody thought whatever. I watched it and I was cringing because I'm like, dude, let him finish. Because we're so comfortable together that when we're in real life, that's what we would do. We cut each other off. We have fun. We talk. That's what boys do. We're having fun. That doesn't play on a podcast the same way it does with us hanging out at the house having cocktails. You see what I mean? So yes, 100% I do that. And I still am trying to like watch it and whatever. But it's such a balance because it's like what your strength is also in this format a weakness, you know? And so, that's why a lot of times too, I do the podcast with my wife because I'm so comfortable with her that she'll have no problem cutting me off right back. She has no problem being like, I'm going to finish the whatever. Yeah. Whereas sometimes you'll get people on here and they're intimidated and they won't. And then I'll watch the thing back and I'm like, it looks like I just beat up on a baby. Like what you know what I mean? Yeah. It was like, come on, say something. Yeah, like, you know, whatever.
Well, that's tough if you got a guest that, you know,
yeah,
can't, you know, doesn't have anything to say, right?
Well, it's not that they don't have anything to say. It's that they don't, it's like it's your show and they don't want to impose, or they don't want to like fight back if you're saying it, or they don't want to like take the chance of maybe not looking good at the moment or whatever it is. And so it's like, but it's on me though, if I bring someone on here to like kind of like, you know, just kind of, and that's where it's like a constant like, okay, shut it off, you know? But it's always been like that. When I was in school, literally like, you know, it'd be like 27 squared, 729. Like my head just, it's just weird. It's like a Rain Man thing without did he have autism? What did he have? He had something like that.
I think so, yeah, something like
it was something like that. But it's like really strange to where you almost have to operate in two different worlds.
And that's all the time.
Oh, dude, I would love one day if we have the technology to put a monitor up of what's going on in my head when I'm on stage. Because I'm operating on so many different dimensions of, okay, here we go, I'm talking to you, but then I'm filtering through where I'm going to go with this. How's that going to play? Where do you throw this joke in? But then how do you make this point? Then while all this is going on, and it's just like a constant filter of what's happening. And it's just like there are a lot of, like I say it all the time, people who listen to this know, you know, directionally I'm a moron. But then there's this side of my brain that just operates at a level that is weird, you know? And it's not even like something you can take credit for. It just does it.
Right.
And it's a strength and a weakness. Well, hey, everyone. I want to take a moment and talk to you about a really cool company called Privy. You know, if you were listening to this episode or even moving forward here, you're going to notice that I'm going to talk a lot about investors and how I think this is a huge part of the market that if you're growing a real estate business, we're not paying enough attention to. You know, I'm a big believer here that sometimes to grow your business, you don't just have to pick up a piece of the pie that's already there. Sometimes you have to go to a completely different pie. And it's so interesting because when you look at it, you look at all the data and you see that, you know, 26, 27%, almost 30% of all residential transactions in the last 12 months were investors, right? They were investors. And when I was an agent, like a ton of the business that I did were investors. And so a lot of you hear that and you're like, oh, it's institutional investors. You know, institutional investors only make up about less than 3% of the overall market. And that's actually going down for the first time in years, which means that we have this huge number of people who are buying and selling properties all of the time, right under our nose, thousands of transactions. They're going to happen regardless. The only question is, are they happening with you? And that's the key thing that I want you to understand. And so when you look at Privy and what they do, they make you the go-to person to work with when it comes to finding investments, when it comes to finding out what a good deal is, when it comes to finding out what the right neighborhoods are, what the wrong neighborhoods are, what previous people had did, all at the touch of a button, right? And so all of a sudden, it's funny, I look at their stuff and I'm like, you know, I worked with all these investors when I was selling real estate, and I'm like, how did I do this without this kind of a tool? And you don't have to do that. Now these kinds of tools are there. And so you're going to hear me in the future talking a lot about working with investors and what that looks like. And like I've said over and over again, it is my job to not only tell you what the problems are and what the solutions are, but ultimately to give you the tools that you need so that you can be the go-to source for something like that. And man, are these people worth a lot of money to you. So do yourself a favor, guys. Go to privy.pro. That's privy.pro. Amazing tool. You can ask us questions. There's more things even coming down the road with them that are just going to blow you away. But this is a tool you need in your business, especially for what it costs. It's not a cost, though. It's an investment, but it's well worth it. Let's start getting those investors.
Well, that's the big thing, you finding your strengths and weaknesses and working with them, right?
Yeah.
Like, I really live on the kind of like the visionary side of business, right? So you got your operators and integrators, and you got like the vision side. So the vision side, when I have
explain that, by the way, for everybody watching.
Yeah.
So explain those different levels for everybody.
Okay. So on a vision person is constantly looking at, like, let's say a vision person, for me, if I'm looking at a piece of paper and it's blank, it'll stay blank. As soon as it has something on it, then I can create and go beyond, well, this, then that, this, then that, this, then that, right? Gotcha. And that's a terrible. not scientific explanation.
No, it's actually a great, like, I actually get it. Like,
Yeah,
as
well,
you're
that's
saying
kind of
that
the
makes
thing.
sense to me.
But it's also, I mean, there's pros and cons to everything. And,
Yeah.
and the vision side is like never, it's not that it's never good enough, but you're just constantly going ways to improve things.
Yeah.
It's great for a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's not great for some other things, right?
100%.
And then integrators and operators, those are the people that don't really have, it's not that they don't have vision, but it's not like, doesn't
Yeah.
come naturally to them. But what does is just being completely organized,
Yeah.
right? Where a visionary usually doesn't have that, right? So you put in a business, if you can get both visionary and an operator,
Yeah.
that's where you're going to really see things change.
Yeah.
So for the vision side, I can go rain mad on
Yeah.
things, right? And I do it all the time. Like the latest idea we have coming out was that. It's like, okay, what we're doing right now isn't working. And it sucks, but I have a lot of times I do it when the back's against the wall, right? When you're like,
'Cause you're
okay,
forced to.
Yeah, you're forced to, right?
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you have like this panic moment where, what are we going to do? I'm going to be out of business. I spent all this time doing this. You know, I have no plans after this.
You go worst case scenario, like it's just,
and then,
the sky is falling.
But then
Yeah.
you're like, okay, that's worst case scenario. I'll live.
Yeah.
Right. So now we got that out of the way.
Yep.
Now let's go focus on
Yeah.
task at hand.
Yeah.
And that's where once I get to that point on the vision side, that's where it just starts rolling.
Yeah.
Like I'll go lockdown mode, and you won't hear from me for like 48 hours, and I'll come out with an entirely new business.
Yeah, I
plan.
get that.
You hand that to an integrator, an operator, and they're like, "Come on, man!
Weren't we
everything was going just fine. Now we got to start over and do all this stuff." Right?
Can we, because I feel like, I want to go into that for a second, because I feel like there's pros and cons to that. Real quick, because I'm realizing as everybody's listening right now, because we didn't even get into it, but I want them, we're going to talk from this side, the business side, the entrepreneurial side, the whole thing. But you are the founder of Privy. Mm-hmm. Tell them what Privy is, tell them why you created it, and then I want to get back to what we just said there, because I feel like that's a really important point as far as like you're coming up with this, you're locking yourself away, then you're coming back, then these people are getting frustrated. Like, wait a second now, and there's this dance. Okay, so what is Privy? How come you guys were at our advance, whatever? What is Privy? Like, how does it relate to like why'd you start it? All that stuff.
All of it?
I mean, not all of it, but
So Privy is a real estate investment software product, right? Essentially, we can tell you every residential property that's a good investment anywhere in the U.S. in real time. And how we got here was a long, drawn-out journey of, takeoffs and crashes, right? But how I started it was back in 2007, 8, 9, when the market crashed. Everybody remembers that. Oof. I had a mortgage company. We were, probably part of the problem, slinging subprime paper, right? Like we didn't know any better. It's just kind of like we're making everybody happy. Everybody gets to buy a nicer house. And I was buying multiple investment properties. And then the market crashed, and just like a lot of people, just got wiped out, right? Yeah. Ended up working at an REO brokerage. For those that don't know, it's real estate owned brokerage. When those properties that people were foreclosing on go back to the bank, that bank needs to get rid of them or needs to sell them, needs to unload them. And, back then it was 80-20. So with the second lien disappears when it goes back to the bank. So the bank owns it 20% down. Even with the market being down, it was like kind of evening out where the bank was like, just sell them. So they'd hire an REO brokerage, which is a local brokerage with local knowledge to be able to price these properties and move them, right? So my job was to move as many as I can, and the phone was ringing off the hook. Like investors were just buying everything. Yeah. I mean, we were moving absolutely every property, no problem.
I was selling back then. Like I was selling a bunch of investment
you were?
property. Oh, like crazy.
It was like crazy.
Yeah.
And I
those
wish
REO brokers would actually like. I had relationships with them, and a lot of them would call me and be like, "Hey, this is a good one.
Yeah,
come get it. Like come,
right?
Yeah.
And if you had the money and you didn't get wiped out, it was like the perfect time to buy. You're probably doing really well right now, right? So how the story goes is I was doing that and everything was going great, but then, the market started to dry up a little bit. Those properties, we were selling them all.
Yeah.
So then I had this investor appetite with no properties.
Yeah.
So I had to get creative on how to find properties. And I was working through the MLS. I'd essentially get up at 5 in the morning, and from 5 to 8 a.m., I would go through everything that happened in the MLS the last 24 hours and filter it to try to find deals. And if I found them, I call the investor, they buy it, right? And it became such a slog that I eventually.
You were on the agent side?
I was on the agent side. Yep. Sorry if that wasn't clear. Yeah, I was on the agent side. So what ended up happening is it became such a slog that I was trying to figure out a better way to do it.
Yeah.
And it became very clear that I needed data to do it. And I ended up getting a meeting with the CEO of REO Colorado. To this day, I don't know why she took the meeting, because I was just some, kid with an idea. And I got in there and I said, hey, look, I need access to the data so that I can do my job. She's like, what's your job? I go, finding investment properties for investors. And she's like, we'll use the MLS. I go, there's not a single tool, filter, anything in there for MLS, or for investors, which, by the way, is the same today, talking about all those years ago. And she essentially told me to go jump in a lake. I was like, okay, well, that didn't work. And then she called me back about 6 months later and said, hey, you heard this thing called RETS, right? Real Estate Transaction Standard. And I was like, no, what is it? She explained to me that all MLSs are trying to get on this standard so that they can think forward to get tech companies to be able to access the data and build products, because they're not going to build products. She asked me if I wanted to be the guinea pig, and I said, sure. So I got a data feed and I got a developer. And then at the time, they would only let me use like one of 4 developers.
And you were still just an agent right now, whatever, with an idea. And you were like, hey, I'm having to do way too much work on the MLS to find these properties. I'm finding them, but it's taking forever. There has to be a better way.
Yep.
And you're like, maybe we can create a product that's almost like the MLS for investors, basically, or for agents trying to find investment properties for their investors, which, we're not going to go all into this on this podcast, but like, to me, it's like, if not one of the most undervalued things that agents are doing today, which is finding properties for investors. It's the quickest, easiest money in this business. But
if you can find them, which is the whole point. So I was building this. I got the data. I was building it just for me to buy properties and help my investor clients. And we just started. I got a developer who was, at the time, they'd only let me use one of 4 developers, and we downloaded it and started building it. And then they opened it up. I could use a different developer, and I ran into this guy, Doug, who's with me today.
Oh, wow!
And he was like an absolute genius. I mean, I'd say,
he's a developer.
Yeah, I'd say, hey, Doug, can you do this? And he'd be looking at me. He goes, done. Right? I mean, we call him Done Doug, because that's his thing. It's the favorite thing you want to hear from a developer. Done. Right?
Wow. Not
this is going to take a year and we're going to figure all this stuff out. He's like, done. So what happened was we were doing using automated valuation models. Everybody knows what a Zestimate is, right? And everybody knows how accurate those are. But that's what we were doing. We were basically trying to come up with an equation that identify a property as a good investment. It completely failed. We would show.
What year is this?
This is like 2011. Right.
Oh, that's great.
And it completely failed because it was just producing all these false deals.
Yeah.
And I couldn't.
Meaning it was giving an estimate, and then when you would actually look at it, you're like, this isn't accurate. That's not a great deal. That's not what the value is. That's not what the...
It was saying this is a deal, right? And I'm like, that's not a deal.
Gotcha.
Right? And we keep trying to like adjust it.
Because you knew the market, and so you could look at it and be like, that's not accurate.
Right. I would do it on a deal that just sold that I know is investment.
Gotcha.
I go try to see if it would have found that, and it didn't.
Interesting.
We're like, oh no. So I was ready to bury the whole thing, and then
was that a data issue, or was that an algorithm issue?
It's impossible to do automated valuation models in my mind, right? Like people have them all over AVMs and want stuff for rental, but properties are their own individual animals.
Yeah, you're speaking the language of our agents right now.
Yeah, it doesn't take anything into consideration. So let me give you an example. If you got 2 townhomes right next to each other, one's a single guy, one's a family of 3 and 3 dogs.
Right.
In 4 years, those are not going to be valued the same.
Yeah.
The automated valuation model says they're the same.
Yeah.
And you can come up with an infinite amount of scenarios where that is not going to be the same.
What did I tell you when we were driving over here? I'm like, kids are with me 50% of the time. House is a certain way.
Oh, right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Kids are not with me.
Yeah.
Out of a magazine.
Yeah.
it's you know.
Jared is saying that how he's a neat freak, and when his kids are around, and he's got 2 teenage boys, so when they're around, it's kind of messy. But yeah,
they know how to take things out.
Sure.
They just don't know how to put things away.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they're teenagers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's I got one that just turned 18, and I'm like, dude, you're an adult now.
No, you got to put stuff.
Now it's a character flaw.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, this is more than me yelling at a kid now.
Yeah.
I got to pass you on to a woman one day, and I'm not turning over a flawed product. So I'm going to need you to start cleaning up after yourself, you know? Anyway, I digress.
No, that's awesome. But yeah,
that's how I talk to my kids.
I mean, they probably love you for it.
Yeah. Oh, I have a great, you'll see, you're going to meet them later. I have a great relationship, but they know that their dad talks to them like that. Yeah. And I say it with a smile.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of serious, you know?
But they know that smile could go away.
Yeah, that's exactly like, hey, this is a warning, you know? Yeah.
It's a warning shot.
Anyway, the point is, you're correct. And like I said, you're speaking the language of our agents, because they always complain about this told, inaccurate estimate, whatever. My response
been
has
a
always
problem
been,
forever.
oh, by the way, is it a problem though? Like, what do we want it to be accurate? If that's accurate, you're not needed. So like the fact that it's a lead creator that brings you in is awesome. The moment that's accurate, now it's a problem.
Yeah, that's we're gonna get into that piece specifically in a second. But yeah, so the automated valuation models didn't work.
Okay.
Right? And we all know why. Investment properties, it's all about, the dollar.
Yeah.
Is it gonna make me money? Is it not gonna make me money? And how much, right?
Make money when you buy, not when you sell.
Right. It's gotta be accurate at the end of the day. And so about ready to bury the company, being like, this didn't work, right? I can't, this isn't helping me.
And this is back in 2011?
Yep.
Okay.
And then Doug was sitting in my office, and I said, "Hey, Doug, this isn't going to work out." He's like, "Well, you got any other ideas?" And I said, "Yeah, but I don't know if we can do it." And he's like, "Well, let me have it." So I basically said, "Let's see if we can track what other investors are doing." Right? And he said, "Well, how would you do that?" And I said, "Well, let's start with fix and flip. So property that's sold and resold in 90 days for 30% more, right? Because we, just on paper, I know that the market didn't
Just using that
increase in
data, you know
30%.
that's a flip.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, there's just no way the market, or it couldn't be anything else, right? So Dundog was like, "Hey, all right, that sounds pretty cool. I'll be back in a week." So he comes back in a week's got it. So I can now track every fix and flipper in the entire RE Colorado MLS, and it was cool to see like how many there were, what are they doing to these properties, how much the spreads were, how long they're sitting on the market. And I'm like, wow, that's really cool. I go, "Doug, one more thing, otherwise, or one more thing to make this really work." And I go, "Take that data, put it back in the system as a filter, and find me every property that matches the original sale." So now we're saying, he goes, "All right, done, Doug." 1 week later, comes back, done. So now we are identifying properties, and we're saying this property is a good fix and flip opportunity. Why? Because the guy across the street just flipped the same property. So now it's not based on automated valuation models, it's based on investor activity. What are people actually doing in the area?
And you know what areas people are doing things, what areas they're not doing things, what type of investments are doing in those areas. It's just a whole other different level of data.
Yeah.
To operate on.
To give you an example, like how powerful it is, in our system right now, I'd go to Chicago, right? And I haven't been to Chicago in 20 some years, and I know nothing about what's going on in the investment market. I would say, show me everybody who did a fix and flip in the last 6 months, right? It'll have all of them. It'll have before and after photos of what they did do it, how long it took, the spread, days on market, all of it. And it puts them in a map and all these little clusters, right? The bigger the cluster, the more properties. And you instantly can see the hottest place to do a fix flip in Chicago, just like that, right? So you drill into and you start looking at these things. You're like, wow, that's, they're paying $150, selling for $275. Like the spreads there.
Yeah.
What are they doing to these properties? And you go, the before and after pictures.
I was going to say, how do you see?
Well, that's huge. Before and after pictures, because one of the biggest problems with fix and flips is that people will, get a contractor and they'll try to envision what they should do to this property, right? And they mess it up all the time, like you would think, because it's, well, first of all, the contractor and the investor got to be on the same page, right? Which is you two talking out, what color the cabinet should be or whatever. And everybody knows how well that works, right? Because at some point, you and your contractor, you're not on the same page, right? But when you have before and after pictures, it eliminates it. You go, do that, right? And you just hand them the picture.
You're keeping it simple. You're saying this is what's worked, this is what it's sold for, this is what,
Yeah, so if it meets your skill set, your price range, and what your profit margin, or the profit you want to get, you just go, okay, find me more of those. Right. And so that's called comparative search technology. Fast forward to today. It's called comparative search technology. We have a patent on it. And the use cases for it are through the roof. Right. So
is that the patent you just got?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
We just got it, but it's been in the patent office for a while. It takes them a while to do that. Right. But so fast forward today, we have 115 direct MLS data feeds, right? And we have this comparative search technology attached to it. And it works for all investment types, not anything 1 to 4 units, not just fix and flips. But essentially, what we've created is we've created a proactive market. So let's say Jared James owns 123 Main Street as a rental, right? And we say, okay, does Jared want to buy more of these, right? And all investors, that's the thing. Investing is really easy if you look at it one way. It says, this property I have works. I just want more of those. So buy this. You want more, repeat it. You're on your way, right? Comparative search handles the repeat it part without you even saying anything. So as an agent, I go, Jared James bought this rental property from me. I wonder if he wants another one. And you go, hey, Jared, here's the same property across the street for sale. Or you can say, hey, Jared, here's somebody, that is buying these properties in your area. Your market's picking up. And you could do that for anybody who owns an investment property anywhere in the United States. You just click a button and it'll send them exact same
How
deals.
is that? Okay, so is it just through a search? Are they able to save a search, and if something comparable in an area comes up, it comes to them? Like, how is that?
Yeah, so right now...
so if I'm working with someone and I know that they like that area, they like that type of, whether it's a buy and hold, whether it's a flip, whether it's a hold, whatever it happens to be, are they looking every day, which is fine? Are they saving a search and it'll tell them, like, this just came up, this is whatever? Like, how's that working?
So if you're an agent and you have an investor client who said, wants a fix and flip, right? You just set a search and they'll send it. And it sends a...
Oh, so you can actually put them on the search, and say, okay, here you go, like it's coming out to you. Like,
a good way to look at it is if you can use the MLS, you can use our software.
Yeah, it's MLS for investors.
It's the exact same thing, just investor focused.
Yeah.
So to give you an example, if you're my client, owner-occupant client, you come to me and say, hey, Scott, I want to buy a condo by the lake, right? I, as an agent, don't know everything about condos by the lake.
Yep.
I go in the MLS and go, show me condos by the lake. How much are they selling for? Where are they selling? What's the difference between this area and that area, whatever. Yeah. And then you deliver that information. I'd deliver that information to you, and you'd say, I like this area better than that area. And then I do it again. And then we find a property and then we're good to go. Investment real estate with our system works exactly the same. So you would say, hey, Scott, I want to find a fix and flip in, where are we? New Haven?
New Haven, yes. I had to think about it a second.
Fix and flip in New Haven. And I'd go, okay, here's everybody who did a fix and flip in New Haven in the last 6 months, right? And here's how much they're making over here. Here's the construction level, what, yada, yada, yada. And you go, this matches my skill set over here. I go, great. Let's find some of those. I click a button, turn it from sold to active, create a filter, and I go, Jared, here's all the properties that are available.
Meaning it's pulling up, okay, here's the ones that are like what you like, but now I go active and I say, here's the ones that are available that can do the exact same thing. And now it's not just filtering by here's available properties, it's filtering by here's available properties that they fit the criteria to do exactly what these people did, which is what you want to do.
Right.
And so now it's not, so like I just want to say, so one of our coaches, Max, does a ton of investment and stuff.
I met Max.
And one of the things that he told me he loved, because we had put him on early on to be trying things out, was he's like, I had like 4 or 5 screens open and I'm like searching, doing like what you were doing in the beginning and like trying to find this and going through here and filtering through here and doing whatever. And he's like, this just makes it so much. Now I'm just like, all right, there it is. Rather than having 4 screens open and spending all day trying to figure out where these deals are. I think that's the easiest way to say it. It's like MLS for investors. It's got the filters that the MLS doesn't have.
Yep. I'm not sure the MLS will let us call it that, but that's how it works.
It's my podcast.
So
it's my podcast. We're not saying that as like the overall, but it's, I mean, that's kind of like to make it easy
works
for people.
the
That's
same.
kind of what it's like.
I like saying if you can use the MLS, you can use this software. Day one.
Yeah.
Right? And I think it's interesting, when you're talking about Max and how we've simplified it. One of the things I've learned through doing this for over a decade now is that agents have issues sometimes working with investors.
Yeah.
And you guys getting on the same page, and an investor will come to you and say, hey, I want to buy this type of property. And you'll, do your thing, try to filter it down. And it takes a lot of work to get to, that this property is a deal and be able to explain it to your investor that's a deal. And that communication breaks down all the time.
Yeah.
Because the investor's like, well, that's not a deal. And you're like, well, yeah, it is.
And once you kind of break that trust, and they start thinking, you don't know what I'm looking for.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. There's a built-in sort of distrust because of all
Correct.
of that.
They may not say it, they may not, but they're thinking it.
I mean, investors say all the time, we don't want to work with agents.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm a big believer that agents have a huge role in this. If you're going to be a successful investor, you need somebody finding these properties, looking at these properties, writing contracts that get done, all of it.
Dude, one of my buddies runs one of the largest investment training companies in the world, and one of his number one things is find a good agent.
Yeah.
Like,
that's
because we have access that other people don't immediate, and that's what an investor needs is, where is it? And I need to get in there first.
It's interesting because it's hard to filter on the investor's behalf. It's hard to figure out what your agent knows and what they don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of times people will say, there's a lot of agents out there who wouldn't be able to help you find an investment deal.
Yeah.
But want the business and say, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
We'll figure this out on the fly.
Say yes and figure out how
Right.
later. Yeah.
Our system is able to eliminate almost all of those problems I just listed, right? You're saying, hey, this property is a good deal. Why? The guy across the street successfully did what I'm telling you can do. This property, here's the numbers, the before and after pictures, all the things, right? How much, and if rentals, how much you're getting for rent, whatever.
Yeah.
So with very little effort, an agent can now take an investor as a lead and close them. Now, however, there are a bunch of investor or agents out there who are working with investors at scale. Like we've talked about this, being able to filter. If you can filter by investments in MLS, you can filter by agents who are working on those investments. And so we do those numbers all the time. And I think if you knew that, like this is something I'm working on. You tell me this is a good idea. So if you knew all the agents that were investor focused and had their skills, and you knew that you knew the properties they work on, and you could filter it, right? As an agent, if I have a client who comes to me and says, hey, I want to do a fix and flip, and I don't know how to do that at all. Even if I use this software, it'd still be kind of, I don't know the acumen, I don't want to try to fake this. Do you think if that agent knew who these agents were, the professional, or the ones who are getting investment deals done, could refer their client and get paid on it? You think they'd do it?
I don't know if they do it, but they might. I mean, it's kind of like agents all the time refer to separate areas. They refer to different specializations. They refer to, so it's very possible. It does bring me to, by the way, one of the main reasons that I wanted you on here today was because we have something coming up in our industry that most people don't realize, which is that as of January 27th, there's some new TCPA guidelines going in, Telephone Communications Protections Act, which are going to completely change how so many agents are able to not only prospect and gain business, but also one of the main lead sources for so many agents right now is buying leads from Homes or Realtor.com or Zillow or one of these places. And now with these new guidelines, those places are only going to be able to give one lead per person. So there'll be no more giving it to 12 agents. So you've got 12 agents being satisfied, but really, so there's all these changes coming. To me, the greatest way for so many of these agents to now fill that line that many of them are going to lose, or at least it's going to decrease greatly, and it goes beyond just those companies that give out leads. There's all sorts of rules we're covering with our people in our academy as far as what's allowed now with prospecting and follow-up and all this kind of stuff. But the greatest way is with investors. To me, it's like the most underutilized part. It was a huge part of my business when I was selling. It's a huge part of so many of the agents we work with through coaching and stuff. But it's not a part of enough people's businesses. And
Definitely.
To me, this is. Now, what I want to get into with you is, so you've got this system that filters through, allows them to find the right properties in a much easier way for the investors, which keeps the investors happy, which keeps the agents happy. It's consistent business. They close quicker, less contingencies, the whole thing. But I heard you talk about bringing investors in. And you could decide what you're allowed to say, what you're not allowed to say, but can we at least say, I'll ask you questions, you tell me if you can say it or not. You guys just made deals that are going to now bring in a lot of investors onto the system that you're going to
hundreds of thousands.
Hundreds of thousands, but you have to match up with agents.
Yep.
Okay, so that's awesome. You guys have just made deals. We won't mention who, but you've made deals with some of the largest now brands that'll be announced soon enough, where we're going to start putting those agents on who are investor focused to be able to now match up with those investors, so that you're taking that investor, giving it as a lead to that agent, and allowing them to now have this new line in the water. We call it, if you want to catch a fish, you throw a line in the water. If you want to catch a lot of fish, you got to throw a lot of lines in the water, but you got to have a bigger boat, right? To me, investors are one of the biggest hooks, one of the biggest lines that not enough realtors and just agents, professional agents, are focused on right now, because it's not only for themselves, but also just to be able to have a consistent flow of business, so to say. So when we look at this here, this is, if you're listening right now, one of the places that some of you need to start to look at and go, okay, this is one place I need to fill my, my bucket, so to say. Hey guys, I want to talk to you about an amazing real estate tool right now called Mosaik. You know, if you want to take your people off of the portals where they're all hanging out and whatever and into your ecosystem, this is the tool that does that. You know, this is a beginning to end, not a CR, it's not another CRM, it doesn't replace that, but it's a beginning to end system that really looks at the lifetime value of your client and looks at every part of that process and takes care of all of it in a way that's completely transparent. So yes, they've got search, they've got transaction coordination, they've got, even for us when we do things like we teach our students the Core 100. They've got the ability to put those people in there, track what's happening, do all of that in an amazing way. But probably the thing that I love about this more than anything is the transparency. You know, in an industry that keeps talking about transparency, and usually when you hear something over and over again, it means that it's not being done at all. This is actually a transparent tool. This is the first tool that I've seen that actually brings the consumer into the transaction. And I think that is the next level of where we are going within this industry. You know, you hear from so many buyers and sellers that, oh, my agent didn't do anything, or I feel like they're not, and there's not this communication going on. This is the first tool I've seen, almost like the early days of .loop where you had that collaboration, but it was just for the document and the signature. They can do that with the transaction now, not only with the clients, but with the vendors, whoever it is, in an amazing way where they can see every step of what's going on. You can write notes to them back and forth. They can see every part of the paperwork and everything and the way that you decide to show it. It's really the next level of what we need to be doing from a consumer experience perspective so they know what's happening, and more importantly, we drive that lifetime value back to you. So if you haven't yet, guys, this is a tool you're going to hear over and over again. You're going to hear me talk about it because I really think it's my role to not just define what the problems or solutions are, but provide the tools that will actually get you there. And while so many tools right now are just check the box and just say you have them, this is one yourself, your team, your brokerage. If you're not on it yet, you need to be. This is not the last you're going to hear about this. They're going to grow astronomically, and this is something you need to get on board with if you're going to operate. If you're going to be one of those people that really overcomes and is that top producer in your area, you've got to have the right tools in place, and Mosaik is one of those right now. So do yourself a favor. Go check out mosaik.io, mosaik.io. Again, mosaik.io. You won't regret it, guys. Send us questions if you do, but this is one of those ones that you're going to look back on and remember, amazing tool. What has been, you got those investors coming in, you got the agents now to match it up. What has been one of the challenges working in the real estate industry, would you say? What are some of the challenges? Other than, okay, you got agents that aren't always completely up on it, but let's face it, you're working with MLSs. I got plenty of tech friends. MLSs are not always the easiest, right? So that's probably a challenge on some level.
Yep. One I would say, overcame for the most part, right? I mean, you're always going to have, nothing's ever perfect, let's put it that way. But, with 115 MLSs right now, we've gotten them to understand what we're bringing to the table is benefiting their agents in a basically forgot about market to the tune that all 115 MLSs don't have a single filter or anything for real estate investors. Or agents.
That's still crazy. We train people. We train people to use keywords and put in words we know, and you have to almost game the system.
Right.
When really there's such a what are they, 27% of the residential market?
Yeah.
And it's 27. How is that not taken into, and then people hear that and they go, oh, it's institutional. And that's less than 3% of it. It's guys, come on. And even the 3% that, they're like, well, it's 3%. Institutional is anything more than 10 doors.
Right.
Which means that what we're thinking of institutional, which is like BlackRock and, all these whatever. The truth is there's a ton of people being called institutional that have just bought a few apartment buildings.
Yeah.
They're not institutional.
Well, I got a funny story about that. Well, I don't know how funny it is, but it's probably
it's quite an
it's probably a good story. I got called by one of those big boy institutional investors, right, to look at our software, trying to figure out if our software can help them find and analyze markets faster for properties they could buy. And essentially what we can do is we can turn anything into a buy box, basically a filter that works for, this institutional investor, for example. And meaning by the filter, the search, the type they're looking for? Yeah. Gotcha. So if they only buy in these markets, 2 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 1,100 square feet, within 5 miles of, a shopping mall or something, right? That's easy for us to do. So when I was talking to them, they said they had $100 million sitting on the sidelines to be able to build tech like what I'm showing them. Right? And I essentially built it in a way that was faster, more efficient than what they were doing, because
Yeah.
they were doing automated valuation models, which that's why they were trying to figure out if there's a different way to do this, because we know that won't work. So they looked at it, and it was kind of a silent room, and they had like the CTO, the CEO, the COO, all the C levels in there, right? And it was kind of silent, and I was like, well, guys, came here to demo, like, what do you think, right? And they said, this is amazing. And I go, well, what would you use it for, right? And they said, well, we want to buy properties at scale. And I go, well, what kind of scale are you talking? And they said, we got $40 billion of gunpowder, they called it, to just buy properties, right? And I go,
40 billion?
Billion. And I go, okay, so what happens when you spend 40 billion, right? And they go, well, we get 140 billion. And so I go, well, what happens then? They go, we get $500 billion. And I said, guys, are you trying to buy every property in the United States and rent it back to the population? And the guy went like this, like, maybe. And I almost hung up on him. And I was just like, this is insane. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, how greed to the, extreme.
Wow.
So essentially I got off that call, and to me, it put a fire in me that gave me my mission. Right?
Yeah.
Which was essentially, I need to put this product in the hands of everybody out there, so that they can have the right to buy, not the right, but they have the ability to buy rental properties and build wealth, without having to worry about these other guys, right?
Yeah.
And they did have the advantage with the money and technology, but with our technology now patented, and I believe it's better, faster, easier for the guy on the street, or girl on the street to understand. So that's where we're at now. Like, let's make sure that buying real estate investment property stays with, people like us.
Yeah, and so it's not only empowering them to find it for their local investor, clients, but also for themselves, when they're doing that, without a doubt.
You should everybody should be doing that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
If
without
you're
a doubt.
in the real estate business and you're a real estate agent,
Yeah.
and this is what you do, buy an investment property.
Yeah.
Period.
All right, so let's pull it back, because I started this whole thing by saying, well, wait a second, what's Privy? We were talking about visionary,
All
and all
right.
this.
That's
okay,
way back.
So let's get back to that. You were talking about the idea that you will lock yourself away as an entrepreneur, but you're a visionary for like 48 hours, and then you'll come back out with. So how does that play with those around you when they're like, wait a second, we were the ones who are implementing this, that, and now this is happening over here? Where do you find the balance between making sure that you're not just jumping off of this and going over there and doing whatever, and the times when it's like, no, it's the right thing to do, like we need to push forward? Like, how do you find that? Are you still finding that, or what's your...
Yeah, it's been a challenge, right?
Yeah.
So, when you build a product, like I was saying, the white piece of paper, right? If it's blank, it's just going to be blank. But now that we have something on it, it's easy to spin it into something else and something else. And not something else, but in addition to, right? So when you start with a product, there's iterations, right?
Yeah.
And that's what that is. It's just iterations getting to the next level. But then you realize, when I was, an example would be building this product for myself. And then when we hit, some of these algorithm home runs, it's like, man, this could change the entire vertical, right? And when you start going, okay, that's a big thought.
Yeah.
Let's bring it back to what we can do today,
Right.
Knowing that there's going to be multiple steps. So when you get to the next step, it's like, wow, that worked, or that didn't work most of the time, right? It's like, that didn't work. That is not producing the revenue. We are not getting the point across of what we do. Or, people aren't getting it, right?
Yeah.
And so you got to reinvent and retry. And sometimes it's language. Sometimes it's the actual product.
Yeah.
It could be all sorts of things. Where we're at now is like business model level. Like who needs this? Who can we help out the most? And, when you look at the different people we help, investors and agents, what do agents want the most?
Yeah.
They want leads, right? They want leads. And investor leads who buy multiple properties and, don't give you crap about the color on the walls because they're going to change it anyway.
Quickest, easiest. Non-contingency, like that's, and by the way, just a really quick point, because we always push, this is why for all of you out there, investors are such a underutilized market for so many of you. I teach all the time the idea of like, look, guys, we need to focus on the right side of the transaction. There's a left side pre-close and there's a right side post-close. And the transaction doesn't stop at the closing, it starts at the closing. When you look at the lifetime value of a client, it's all about that frequency over and over and over again. How many times they buy and sell, how many times they're going to refer you, whatever. And there's this thing right now where the average person is buying or selling about once every 10 years, okay? And when you look at this, what that means is if somebody has 5,000 people in their database, right? Like think about that. That means that 500 people are going to buy this year. That means in the next 10 years, 5,000 people. And we're out here chasing all these other things and going crazy and whatever. A new study just came out, and it showed that they did all this research on millions and millions of leads or contacts within real estate CRMs. 90% of the people inside of a realtor's CRM use someone else when they buy or sell. They're not followed up with, they're not whatever. So that's a whole other thing for another day. But here's my greater point. Those people buy or sell once every 10 years. We had a lady at our advance who got up and she's like, guys, I buy 10 properties a month. You know?
Yeah,
she's like, you're out there, look, it's good. Take care of your people. Realize the lifetime value. We're not saying you don't do that. That is an obvious line in the water. But why are we ignoring people who are buying 4 a year, 8 a month? Whatever, like, how is that not how do we as business people look at those two and not neglect either one, but completely ignore the one who's buying every single month? It's like, it boggles my mind. Like, I literally just want to, like,
you know why?
It's part of the reason why, you and I talk and, whatever. But
you don't know
what
why?
were you going to say?
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Let's see. What are you going to say?
Well, it's because they don't know. If somebody shows up to an agent, how many of those, and says, I want to buy 8 properties a month.
Yeah.
How many of those agents would be able to do that?
Would be able to?
Yeah, would be able to find 8 investment properties for this person.
Oh, so that's a different question. Would be able to find 8. So now we're back to, if I actually put my mind around this, now we're back to first time people go where they're steered, whatever. But like, I don't think agents are brought into this industry to even think that way. And then once you start getting into it again, they don't have the capability to be able to see, well, here's the obvious next, here's the property, here's this one, here's another one, here's, whatever.
Yeah, they don't have the capability.
Most of them aren't trained that way. And honestly, in my mind, most agents become what I call too busy to ever be productive. And so what that means is they get so busy and so narrow and so in on what they're doing and focused on what they're doing that they don't realize that, like, it's right here. You know what I mean? It's like they're over here like trying to start a fire with 2 sticks, and it's like there's a lighter right here.
See, I think they completely understand that there's an investment market and that the investors would be a great client to have. And having a bunch of them would be awesome because they buy multiple properties. I think the problem is how do you find them? Right, and once you do find them,
which is really not that difficult.
Well, right, yeah. But I think, but the very next step is once I find them, what am I going to do? What does my day-to-day look like to help this investor find properties? Right, and it falls apart almost immediately because trying to find those properties is not easy to do. Right, even the investors, a lot of the investors will tell you that they can't find a deal on the MLS.
Yeah.
Like if it hits the MLS, there's no deal there.
Yeah.
Well, because we have data off market and on market, I can tell you right now that most markets, 60% of all investment deals are found on market.
Yeah.
And there's people just selling the crap out of them, right?
Yeah.
And everybody else is like, I don't know how to do that. How do they find them? I don't get it, right?
Or by the time you hear about them, it's too late.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think, I believe what we've built completely solves it. Completely solves it, right? Gets you back to, I don't need to know the entire investment market. I don't even know how to invest. I don't even know how to, the economics of a fix and flip.
Yeah.
Right? I don't need to know any of that stuff. I just need to find the condo by the lake, right? That's all I need to do. Yeah. All right, here it is. Why? Because this guy across the street just did it. No argument, no nothing. You want to buy it? Yes or no, or I'm going to sell it to somebody else, right? That's as easy as it gets.
Yeah.
And now if you do sell that property to that person, that is now your filter. Yeah. And you just say, find every time something shows up that matches it forever.
And couldn't you technically too, like, okay, so you set up the search once you go to a REIA, an REIA, Real Estate Investors Association or whatever, right? Guys, go literally look up all that stuff. We buy ugly houses. Call them. They want ugly, like they want investments. Go look up, go and Google your hard money lenders in your area. Call them. Who's your best clients? Like it's not that difficult to find the people who are professional investors. They buy over and over again, okay? But couldn't they technically, in addition to having saved searches with investors that's going to them, branded to them, but coming from them, just like they would off the MLS or anywhere else, couldn't they also, if they just met a bunch of different investors, they know what they're looking for through a REIA meeting or something like that, set up saved searches for themselves on those things too, and like be getting a daily report of like, here's different fix and flips, here's potential buy and holds, here's potential, and then be taking those and putting them out to their other investor clients that they maybe don't have that relationship with yet, where they're doing it over and over. Like, hey, I've got one for you. Look, hey, you want to go see this? Couldn't they be doing that too?
100%.
And just be reaching out and making contact.
That's what I'd be doing.
I was doing, by the way, I'm being very like, playing dumb here, but like I was doing that. Like that's,
well, if you have a way to, I mean, you talk about that list of 5,000 people, right?
Yeah.
How many people on that list of 5,000 want to buy an investment property.
Right. Probably almost all 5,000.
Yeah, everybody, it's common knowledge, real estate investing, great way to build wealth.
Yeah.
Right? You ask a room full of 100 people,
yeah.
What's your first step to go do it? It falls apart fast.
Correct.
Right? When you can walk and say, hey, or you walk in the room and say, hey, do you're interested in buying an investment property? Yes. What kind? Well, I don't really know. Well, how about I help you figure out what's the best? Where do you want to buy? Within, somewhere around my house.
Yeah.
All right, let's just look at what people are doing around your house.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, this side, everybody's got a rental. This side, everybody's fix and flip.
Yeah.
Right? You're like, either of those models work for you.
Yeah.
And you're like, I like the rental side, right? You're like, okay, well, here's what they're getting for rent. Here's what what they did for a remodel.
Yeah.
Here's every property that is available to buy that. Which one do you want?
Yeah.
Right? And if you can help people get off the fence
Yeah.
but build wealth,
Yeah.
you now have advanced you being a real estate agent into moving
Yes.
to the realm of trusted advisor.
We call it advisor. Same thing.
Right, where now you can help anybody either build wealth.
That's correct.
Beyond, sell them a house, great, do it. Right.
We call that part of their portfolio, by the way. So like we teach people to say to people, like every year when most people be like, hey, give them an updated CMA. And it's like, no, that's an individual. They don't know what a CMA is. And that's an individual property. I want to give you an updated value of your portfolio because portfolio speaks to multiple properties. And with these people sitting on so much equity right now, most of them don't even realize they could be pulling money out and investing and doing the things that they want to do, the thing they watch the shows on all the time and dream about, but they're not sure how to go to that next level. Well, one of the ways is to actually have opportunity for them. Be like, hey, did you know you're sitting on $300,000 worth of it? Do you know if you took 80 of that and put it towards this over here, you could be generating $2,400 a month in this? Or do you know this property over here? And now it's that, like we talked about, that advisor, which is the next level of where we have to go in this industry.
I think that the example you just gave, I think is going to be scary for a lot of people. Trying to tell, and I'm not sure they can even do it legally. Trying to tell people where to invest their money, how much to invest. Don't you need like a license for that?
No, like we're not talking about we're talking about like property options. Like
right, but when you're
properties.
saying you have $300,000, here's what I recommend you do with it. Right, I don't know.
There's nothing illegal about that. You can absolutely let people know there's.
But I don't even think you need to do that. It's just are you interested in investing in real estate? Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Do you want to, what do you know about the market? Nothing. What do you know what type you would want, like a fix and flip or a rental?
Yeah.
And they'd be like, maybe a rental. Okay, well, let's just see what's going on around your area. And you can literally show them in real time what's happening in their area.
Yeah.
And they automatically go, whoa. Now, instead of sitting on the fence, they're taking this seriously.
Right.
When they start looking at I have $300K. What happens if I invest it here? That's on them. I don't think.
What are you recommending as that next step? Are you saying like set them up on a search or something and be like, let's just start seeing what comes up?
I think that you go into the software and you pull a deal type like rentals, right? Here's what everybody's doing in rentals around your house, right? And then go, if you span that circle 5 miles to 10 miles, is there better ways to do this, right? And then you go. You guys kind of analyze it together. What it does is it proves to them that you have the technology and the know-how that you can really help them do this. And they won't walk away going, man, did I buy the best one? Was there something else? Was I really looking at everything, right?
Yeah.
Because they're looking at the entire market. Yeah. But the best part is when they start saying, I'm interested in this. Yeah. And then they don't do anything. Yeah. You set them up with a search for sold properties. Yeah. And you just ping them every time somebody bought one that they should have bought. And eventually they start going, well, all right.
Aversion. Yeah.
But you're also educating them the whole time, right? They're like, oh man, that happened. And these CMAs we have are live, right? Yeah. Meaning all the comparables, everything in there updates every 15 minutes. So when you send them a property that says, hey, this is a good deal, and they have it, and then all of a sudden that property gets sold, they keep it, they can watch it and see what happens to it. They'll start losing out on a lot of money very quickly,
and they'll start they're not the only one. Like they're seeing
like
that
FOMO.
like this is what people are doing.
Yeah,
like this isn't just on HGTV. Like people actually buy these properties. People
a lot
actually,
of them. To the tune of what was it? Last 12 months, there was $185 billion in sides that happened just in the 115 MLSs. Where 185 billion.
You're saying within MLSs?
Just within the MLSs that we're in, the 115. So that's massive.
That's a lot of sales.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's just a little bit.
If you were to see how many of the agents actually got a piece of that, it'd blow your mind.
Oh, it doesn't blow my mind. Like that's exactly.
Okay, it wouldn't blow your mind.
Yeah, but that's exactly it though. It's like, so that was the point I was trying to make earlier is, I think a lot of times when we have this conversation, there's a lot of agents out there going, man, can we actually do that? Man, is that actually a thing? And then you hear that almost 30% of the residential market is investors. And yet when you look at the portion of the market that so many other people go after, they're chasing things that are less than 30% of the market.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
like if you ask an agent, you know, hey, have you ever called a for sale by owner? Or is that part of your, and they're like, oh yeah, of course, whatever. And it's just like, that's such a smaller, you know?
Yeah.
And
I
so
would
it's
do
just
that.
a matter of like, it's just like with their clients and making them aware that this is an option. Like you can have a portfolio,
Yeah.
you can have real estate as an option, you can have these types of things. I think for agents, this is kind of like the wake up to them as well, to be like, hey, if you don't have this as part of your portfolio of transactions, portfolio of business, you're missing out right now. Because it's the thing, the cool thing about investors is they buy and sell many times in the same market, which means it's not a matter of it's an up, down, it's an up market, it's a down market, it's a this market, it's a that market, whatever. Somebody who's flipping is buying and selling in the same market. So it's like whether it's up, down, whatever, it's just the market. Like
It's the
let's
market.
just get something and let's go. Like we just need to buy it at the right price. I said earlier, you make it when you buy, not when you sell. We got to buy it right. We got to know what it's going to take realistically. I got to have a decent GC when I'm going in there,
Right.
general contractor. And a lot of these full-time investors that you'll work, I say full-time, but like the ones who do it regularly, it doesn't mean they don't have a job and such, but the ones who do it regularly, a lot of times they have GCs they work with on a regular, and they know. They literally have the code at Home Depot. For these are the cabinets we do.
Right.
This is the tile we do. This is and the point is they're buying it from someone. Investors don't care who the deal comes from.
That's true.
Just bring me the deal.
Yep.
Who's it going to be, you know?
Yep.
And this gives you the tool to be able to do that, to get started, to be educated. We created a course they can watch and educate themselves on it. And if anybody who's watching this, it's not 30% of your business, or more, you need to start to think and go, okay, this might be the way that I get that predictable revenue, because investors buy all the time. Like they buy and sell all the time. They don't care. Like,
And just starting small and saying like, I'm going to sell one investment property this year.
Yeah.
Right. And watch what happens. Once you get the taste for it and realize like how much easier that was.
Yeah.
And that this person now is on your drip and they're getting new deals that match the deal you just sold them forever.
Yeah.
Right. When you're trying to stay in the view of your owner occupant client, right, for 5-7 years, right? Like, what are you sending them that they give a crap about, right? I mean, really.
Yeah, they like real estate porn in the sense that they want to know what's coming on.
Yep.
But they don't. But they're not buying anything.
Right.
They're not going anywhere. Like little Johnny's still in high school.
Yeah.
They're not leaving that
No,
house. You're
they're
right.
not.
But an investor.
Yeah, you're saying, what are you sending them that they care about? You're sending them a property that makes them money based on the one that they already own.
Yeah.
Like there is no better content you can send somebody. And sending them a property that somebody else bought that is just like the one they own, and if it's in the same neighborhood,
It's proof of concept.
they get off the fence. They start talking. Husbands start talking to their wives start talking to husbands. Hey, I think we should get another one. And they're looking at that and just that FOMO as they disappear. Right.
That's right.
They'll figure it out.
Could have been me.
Could have
It was
been
so
me.
funny. We had a call with our academy students earlier today, and I was talking about the 3 ways that you generate more revenue within a business. You can change the price, you can change the frequency, or you can change the number of clients, right?
of clients.
And when you talk about changing frequency,
Yes.
that's very difficult when it comes to an everyday client that you're just like, hey, don't you think we should move? Who cares? He's in middle school. Let's go. But when you start talking about investors, you can change frequency just by the fact that you're bringing visibility to an option that are like, let's go, that they didn't know about, or that they were going to do with someone else, or they're going to, frequency, like I said, the average person buying or selling once every 10 years. But when you start talking about an investor, one of the ways that a lot of people listening to this right now that could actually drastically increase their revenue is by working with clients whose frequency changes, and it's just they're just going to get the next one, and now they have proof of concept with their hard money lenders and and next thing you know, they're getting a higher limit and they're getting more and so it's just you change the price, you change the frequency, you change the number of customers. This is a huge way when we talk about investors that you can change frequency. With that being said, we got to come to a close. We've been doing this a while, but I want to give you a chance. Is there anything that you feel like we didn't talk about that you want to make sure we cover, or anything you want to get across to the audience, like anything?
Well, I think, we talk about a lot of things, right? Kind of all, across the board.
Podcast all over,
Yeah. And so whatever I said that doesn't have anything to do with real estate investing, it's just an opinion.
Yeah. God, look at you covering yourself. Look at you covering yourself.
But when it comes to real estate investing, we are the experts, period. There is nobody who can keep up with us. And when I say us, I mean us, our agents, the investors, everybody using our system.
Yeah.
It really is a game changer.
Yeah.
And we are here to help.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't, the money is going to be there. It's all going to be fine. We're not really worried about that piece. We really do think we can make an impact for real estate agents and investors in this market who have been way underserved for way too long. So you can get a hold of us. So if you have questions, we have trainings, we have all these things to help people out. But you should just know that our altruistic motivation is to be able to, all those homeowners that are on the fence that say, I want to buy a property, but I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
We want to get to them and help them do that, but we only can do it with the agents.
There you go.
The agents have to be in a piece of that or it doesn't work.
How do people get a hold of you? What's the...
So our website has everything, ways to get a hold of us, has trainings. You can sign up for software. It's privy.pro, privy.pro.
Awesome. 1V, PRIVY.pro. When you say like, look, we're the expert on that, that's what we do. For everybody listening, that's why we have you on here. Mm-hmm. Like I think everyone knows that, I don't know if this is the right way to say it or not, but I got big glasses, meaning I see like kind of everything going on in the industry. And, when I saw what you guys were doing with your fast matches and your, just the ability to really kind of eliminate all that work for investors and empower agents, to be able to kind of add that line in a way that wasn't difficult and made it very doable, very manageable, but also made them look very professional and knowledgeable. It's to me an absolute no-brainer. So appreciate you being on.
Yeah, thanks.
Do you want them to? You don't do like anything online or anything, right? Like you're not like on the social, so I won't even go there. Like whatever. I think you have a Facebook account or something.
I haven't been on.
But you're
in
not.
years.
That's not your avenue. Yeah.
No.
But with that being said, man, appreciate you being on here.
Thanks,
I'm loving what you guys are doing in the industry. I'm loving. There's some stuff going on we can't talk about yet. There's some big deals happening right now, which are going to be really
tuned.
cool. That we'll be able to announce soon. Which there'll be a lot of people who listen to this who will be very happy. And with that being said, thank you all for watching. Make sure you comment below. Let us know where you're watching from and what MLS you are. Hopefully you're connected in the MLS that they're connected in. And until next time, thank you, Scott.
All right. Thanks, Jared. Bye.